Life Audio.
If you're listening to or watching this episode the week it releases, I am currently in Italy facilitating a pilgrimage for women through the cities of Florence, Assisi, and Siena. Early on in our travels, my friend and pilgrimage partner, Mary Lynham, found the most delightful and heart-forward tour guide named Lauren Mowat. Lauren doesn't merely show you around and drop history factoids on you. No, with humor, eloquence, and flair, she helps you enter into the story of the actual people and geography. Hi, friends. I'm Jem Fadling, and this is the Unhurried Living Podcast, where we inspire you to rest deeper, live fuller, and lead better. Today, I'm sharing lovely Lauren with you, and we're going to talk about how to travel mindfully and intentionally to get the most out of your experience. And if you're not careful, you might also find that what we talk about works for just life in general. The difference between rushing through a city and receiving it slowly is the difference between ticking a box and being emotionally stirred by beauty and connection. Today, we're talking with a woman who guides people through the splendor of Italy, and not just through streets and museums, but into a deeper way of experiencing the past and the present. Today, we're exploring the art of traveling mindfully. My guest is Lauren Mowat, a writer, instructor, and licensed tour guide based in Tuscany. Originally from California, Lauren moved to Rome over a decade ago and has been enjoying the sights and stories of Italy ever since. Together with her husband, she's the founder of Unlock Italy, a guided tour and travel planning business, and she brings a beautiful blend of literary insight, historical knowledge, and heartfelt presence to everything she does. Together, we'll talk about how to approach travel with more intention and depth. We'll explore what it means to slow down, to set meaningful intentions before a trip, and truly see the places we visit, not just with our eyes, but with our whole selves. So whether you're planning some upcoming travel or simply longing to live a more present and attentive life, this conversation will invite you into a more reflective way of being. Let's dig in. If you're a woman and you want to know more about our annual pilgrimage to Italy, make your way to unhurriedliving.com/Italy to learn more. I'd love to have you join us on a future journey. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being with us today and saying yes to this.
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited to talk about mindful travel.
Yeah, well, I have to say, the first time I met you, it'll be 2 years ago next month, actually. That was my first sort of pilgrimage with Mary, who is our friend. And here's what struck me, and here's why we're talking now. You and I sort of made my way to the front of the line when we were walking toward the Duomo, and I was just chatting you up a little bit, and you said something like, "Who are you people?" And it was a great question though, because we had already been hanging around long enough for you to kind of get a feel for the women that we usually bring on these trips. And the women we bring they're heart forward, they're mindful, they're present, they're curious, right? And you had already picked up on this vibe, and you're like, "Who are you? What are you doing?
What is this special group of people? Explain more."
Well, and I loved your answer, because one of the things you said to me back was, a lot of people don't know why they're here. So you're with them and they don't know how to engage with what you're talking about or whatever. That's not everybody, but there's enough people that you probably notice that. So it made me want to talk to you about this, because at Unhurried Living, of course, we care very much about presence and mindfulness and intentionality. And I thought, well, how fun to have a conversation about traveling. We've never done this before. Traveling with intentionality. And who would I want to talk to about this? Of course, it's Lauren. So anyway, this is the backstory why you're here.
Yeah, great.
So I wanted to start actually at the place of story, because that's one of the most fantastic things about you that makes you such a great guide, is that you are such a master storyteller and you make history interesting, or factoids interesting, because you bring in. So I'm wondering, can you just start by telling us, why does story matter and why is it so impactful the way it is?
Well, I think when I started guiding over 10 years ago, I was giving people lots of facts because I had just learned all of those facts. So I was excited to share every date, every name, the timeline up to the thing we were looking at. And I could see people just completely glazing over. And I also noticed we're standing in one spot for 30 minutes instead of moving through the space and actually looking at things. Sorry to anyone who met me as a guide 10 years ago. And I started, as a guide, you're kind of always experimenting with how can I capture the attention of the people in front of me? And each group is going to be a little bit different. So you might start telling a certain story and you see it's not really engaging. So you might try a different story and it starts engaging people. But what is kind of the fundamental, the foundation of all of those things is figuring out how to convey what you're looking at through a story about it. And I think this is because stories are what really stick with people. You can memorize a bunch of facts, but the fact doesn't stay with you. You don't keep pondering a fact. You don't have an emotional reaction to just a fact by itself. But a story is like a kind of a jewel that you can turn around and look at in the moment. And then later you can come back to it and think about it. It's something that can really connect us to the people and places of the past in a way that the timeline or a bunch of statistics can't really excite you. I think the core of a story is emotion. And so if you can tell a story that can elicit an emotion, that's the thing that someone's going to remember. And that also is interesting to see what's going to happen, in this story. So it keeps people interested and it keeps people pondering and thinking about what you're actually looking at.
Yeah, I remember, again, it was on the first trip, because every time we've gone now, I think we've been with you 3 times. This will be our 4th coming up. Mm-hmm. You tell slightly different stories. I'm like, oh, she didn't talk about the Medici as much, because that first time I was so enthralled with the way you told those stories and the way their shield, what do you call the shield? Not the shield,
but their crest. Yeah.
The crest, that's the word. Their crest is everywhere in Florence. Yeah. And so once you taught me that and you told me the story and how it was sort of their brand, I mean, mm-hmm. you sort of struck my 21st century, mindset. Mm-hmm. Every time I go now, I'm always pointing out to people, see that over there? That's the Medici crest. And you'll find it everywhere. It's like, and I don't know anything except I just remember that the way you would drop a factoid was always within a story. And it was so interesting and it stuck. Mm-hmm. I think there's so much to learn. You and I sort of said this to each other, I think, via email. What we're going to talk about today is traveling. Mm-hmm. But anything we're talking about with travel intentionality has to do with your life, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a way to live.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes when you're traveling, it's an amazing opportunity to realize these patterns that you've gotten into in your daily routine, your daily life, because you're not trying to, necessarily make the most of the day on a Monday going to work. And then you go on a trip and you're trying to make the most of that day and you go, I could bring some of this back with me and make the most of that Monday at work too, and not just on a trip of a couple days or a couple weeks. So I think travel ultimately, I mean, it influences our lives in ways that you can't always predict.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you've walked with so many people over 10 years. I imagine there's been a lot of people you've been with. And going back to what I mentioned before, you've probably noticed the difference between people who move quickly through a trip, mm-hmm. or maybe they don't know why they're there, or they're just trying to check off a box or something, and someone who's intentional. Can you just describe that a little bit more?
Absolutely. Yes. And this is something I think that really struck me about your groups, that I could see this was a different type of traveler than the typical traveler, in which there's a little more work on the guide side to draw people's attention. The group you were with, they were very intentional, which was, I just felt that energy right away, and I absolutely loved it. But I think, and I know why people do this, they're going on this huge trip. They want to see as many things as possible. They start with 5 things, they end up with 50 things. And then once they're there, they have this checklist and they're going through the checklist. And what happens is, even if you gave yourself enough time to do the checklist, that can be the only thing that you see. So you're in front of something going, check, and your attention is already gone because you're thinking, can I fit in the other 3 things before lunch? Will there be time for that? And then, what time is it? Should I get there? It's sort of a difference in the level of attention that someone has. So I'm not against checklists, but I think you need to take a moment to kind of be actually in the moment, observing what is in front of you, because otherwise you have a kind of restless attention that doesn't allow you to really take it in and enjoy it, because there's now other things that have to be checked off, if that makes sense.
For sure. Oh, and it's so tempting. I am one of those people that has had to learn over time. Like one time it was just my boys and I with another girlfriend. She had 3 girls and I had 3 boys, and they were all like teenagers and younger. And we had one day in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And I made everybody schlep because I was like, we're going to see. I knew we couldn't see everything, but there were things you could cram into a day.
Yes. Yes.
This is like 18 years ago, 20 years ago. I was younger. I wouldn't do it now. But I remember that feeling of like, oh my gosh, we're here and we only have one day and I have to see this and I have to see that. And now with Mary and I, you'll notice this time, I don't know if you've looked at what we're asking you to do, but we're only asking you to take us to 2 places this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To really dig in. Of course, we'll be passing by a bunch of other things. But the first trip we took with you was way too much. And we've been pruning and pruning and pruning because we want that sensation for ourselves and for the women to linger, to hear the stories, particular ones that you've chosen for the places that we've chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different mindset. You have to be able to lay down the FOMO, right?
Yes. And it's really hard. I completely get why people are doing it. So this observation comes with no judgment, because I have been in that situation. I only have this time. I need to see this and this. And you miss the things even while you're in front of them. You can miss the things even while you're in front of them. And I guess it's sort of like, do you want 100 pictures or do you want like 10 really strong memories about your trip? That could be a way to start thinking, am I going for the picture and the checkbox, or am I going to experience what there is for me to experience about this place, who I am and how I am that day, how this place is that day, how is that chemistry going to interact? Or am I here to like breeze through and just, you can easily forget what you've seen that way.
Sure. Oh, I love that image actually of 10 memories or 100 photos.
Mm-hmm.
Because pretty much everywhere you go, you see the new posture is the hand is up and there's a phone here and people are looking at the thing through the screen. It's right there. You could just look at it.
Yes. And especially when you're, in a museum, where it's like, painting or something. I can see people just getting in front of something, taking a picture, and then they move away. I'm like, but you didn't actually look at the thing. So you came all this way, but you're not slowing down enough to just look at it for 10 seconds. Not even, there's like a challenge in the New York Times now to look at a painting for 10 minutes. I just saw this.
Oh, wow.
Can you do
what
it?
A great idea.
Sort of the challenge. It's like, well, I mean, I think so, but I actually, on a tour, you don't spend 10 minutes looking at one thing, or at least I don't, because I'm talking so much.
Right. Right.
But
oh my goodness.
But don't forget, don't forget to actually look and not just take the picture and keep going.
Yeah, that's so good. Is there anything else that you'd want to say about that? Maybe the idea of making that deeper emotional connection to what it is you're standing in front of. I've been reading a book by a woman named Evelyn Underhill, and she talks about labeling things. We look at something, we label it, and we want to move on. That's exactly what you're saying. But she's saying, what if you paused and just experienced without calling it what you can see and how that would change how you live? So I'm wondering, is there anything else about that you could say?
I would say, what does it mean for me to say, take time to really look at something? What does that actually mean? What are you looking at or looking for? But I love this concept of labeling. It's kind of also a sort of meditation technique to just say in your head what you are actually seeing. It sounds kind of silly, but saying blue flowers, red flowers, a woman in a dress. And as you're saying mentally or aloud, if you're with other people or on your own, while you're saying woman in a dress, you might start going, what does that dress really look like? What is that dress made out of? Where is she standing? What is she standing on? Who is that figure next to her? And just say what you're actually seeing. It's sort of a way to train yourself to use your eyes, which sounds, again, like if I said, do you know how to use your eyes? You would say, of course I do. We're very visual. We're constantly seeing images, but we're constantly seeing images for 30 milliseconds and then skimming off to the next thing. And if you can start almost having this little dialogue with yourself, what do I actually see? You will notice so many more things. You might have gone, okay, nymph in a forest, moving. And if you stop and look, you'll start saying, oh, that's a flower that I recognize from, the daycare I used to go to or something. It reminds me of that flower. So then you're having a conversation. What is that flower making me think about? Or what does that remind me of? Or I really don't like the look of that person. Why? Why don't I like that? Why do I like that thing? You're sort of awakening yourself to the painting or the statue or the piece of architecture or the piazza, wherever you are, in a way that makes you engage with it and not just sort of like consume it, like see it and go. You're having an experience in that place that is going to stay with you.
Yeah. I love that so much. And of course, it fits into the essence of what we like to talk about here, which, because you're talking about presence, you're talking about a kind of slowing, actually, because you can't, whatever you just described, you can't do that in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can be busy on your vacation. Like we're going to be, quote unquote, busy when we do our pilgrimage. And when we see you, we're going to be walking around and seeing many things. And but the invitation is to be unhurried in here. Mm-hmm. And what you're describing takes a concerted effort to try that on.
Yeah.
And I pause long enough to see.
And we're just not, we kind of have to retrain ourselves to do that because we don't have to be bored ever anymore. And so you don't have to sit and start looking at the tree and going, what's over there? You can be on your phone every second, constantly entertained in a good or bad way, just reading the news, panicking or watching something or laughing, you can just be constantly engaged, but you're not really, you put the phone down and you have no idea what just happened to those 2 hours. What did I see? I don't know. So we kind of have to remember that from once upon a time, being bored, we also learned how to, pay more attention to what's right around you, what's right in front of you.
Do you struggle with that at all now that you've been a tour guide for 10 years? You talked earlier about how on a Monday we get up and we're not really intrigued by what's going on because it's just our life. I mean, has it become that way for you? I mean, how do you stay curious and fresh when you've been to the Uffizi, like, I don't know, hundreds of times?
Hundreds of times. That is a great question. I think something that's cool for me as a guide, because I'm mostly a private guide in the sense that I'm with a couple or a family or a specific group, not a huge group of people, which I'm very lucky to be able to do that, because it means that my experience of the place is different every time because of the people I'm with. So they make it different for me. So it's always a slightly different Uffizi every time that I'm there. And what I was sort of saying the other day to someone was that I'm trying to show people the things that I usually show people there. So sometimes I'll see, okay, we're going to skip this type, whatever, too many Marys. We're going to skip the Marys with this group and get over to the Botticelli, or we're going to spend more time on the Marys. I see they're appreciating that. So that can change, but I often see the same things in the paintings that I'm looking at because I'm showing people the same things. And it's the people I'm with who will go, what is that? And I will go, I have never seen that in this painting, because I'm usually talking about my 5 things that I want to show you, or 3 if we're going faster, or 1 if we're going really fast.
Right.
And they will point out something, and we'll all stop and look at that thing and try to make sense of it, or analyze it, or that can be one of the most fun things for me, is literally discovering new things because new eyes are there, which is cool. And then I also wanted to add to that, because it's a question I get a lot. Do you ever get bored coming? Here we are with the David again, for me, but there's 2 things that keep it always, I think, interesting. One is, the more I see something, the more special it becomes to me. So it, from going, oh, this is a cool piece of art, or this is a cool piece of architecture, it becomes almost like personally very important to me, because I'm coming back to it again and again and again. So it's like coming back to an old friend or something, I just like, and then I really want to show people what's so special about that piece for me. And the other thing is seeing the looks on people's faces. Like when you show a movie that you love to someone that they've never seen it, and you're like looking at them like, oh, you're going to love this part. And I want to see your surprise, or your jump scare, or your laugh, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's also the feeling of, I can be in the zone, and okay, we're walking into the room with the David, and then I am stopped by the group going, the face, and they stop. The first view of certain things physically stops people in their tracks. And I'm like, okay, let's go over here because we can get the best air-conditioned spot to look at it from this angle. And I forget, oh yeah, there's the physical boom of, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm looking at. And that brings me right back. I'm like, oh yeah, this is, that's what's really exciting as a guide, to see that.
Oh, so good. There's just so many resonances here. And I knew there would be. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because my husband and I, we do our own we're kind of our own kind of tour guide. We lead people on retreat, solitude and silence with God. And I would have a very similar answer, that it's like, how can you keep going on retreat? Well, first of all, I go to amazing, beautiful places. And even if it's the same one, I don't care, because it's beautiful. It's overlooking the beach.
It's amazing.
And every time there's different people there, and they're experiencing God. And then I get to hear the stories of how that's affecting them. And the same thing, something will happen. It's that boom. And I never, ever get tired of it. It's very similar. Yeah. So what you're saying really translates well to life. I'm sure someone else in their vocation or in their relationships has a resonance as well. I remember my husband and I in 2019 went to Florence for our 34th wedding anniversary. And that was the first time I saw a statue of David. Same thing happened to me. Because you can't believe, when you see the pictures, it's nothing like standing in front of how big it is. Yeah. But the room right before it, we walked through first. And that room intrigued me as well, because they were discards or practice pieces or whatever. And I just thought, isn't that amazing? I mean, that was a life lesson to me. Like, this room is filled with something we're calling art. It's precious. It's set aside. And to the artist, it was just this thing.
Yeah.
was practicing or throwing away or trying something out on. And I don't know, it just gave me permission to think more highly of my attempts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
Michelangelo called those pieces, the unfinished ones,
Yeah.
the tragedy of his life. Dramatic. Okay. Michelangelo, very dramatic guy.
Right.
Um, because he was never like, he never had the time to finish them. So he wanted,
Ah,
but he could never finish them. And I love them unfinished. Those are some of my favorite pieces there.
yeah.
And those also, that's that you are going all around it. You're trying to see it from different angles. Where is the face? How
Yeah.
does it work?
Right.
How does the artist work? Is what you can see in those pieces. And I'm so glad that they're in that room because you have a completely finished, the David,
Oh,
totally incredible. And then these other ones that are also making you think about how do you make art? At what point does this block of rock become a piece of
mhm.
art? Is it when it's done over there, like the David, or what about all of these ones too? I think all of them are.
That I love that conversation because I'm
Mhm.
all about process and transformation and letting all the parts count. Because what else is there in your
Mhm.
life except all the moments? Like there's only so many like, ta-da, here's a David. Like how many times in your life do
Yeah,
you do that?
right, right. When you
So,
get totally completed something.
right.
Yeah,
So learning to enjoy that process. So yeah, I'll never
yeah,
forget. I mean, I can still remember because that moment you said boom. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. So beautiful. So beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so maybe on that, well, maybe you've kind of answered this question. I think I'm going to ask this one instead. Let's talk a little bit about silence and stillness, just because I was just talking about
Mhm.
retreat. Are
Mhm.
there actually places that you take people and it feels like right to pause or
Mhm.
not speak as much? Have you had that experience
Mhm.
before? Or have you had to have the people express that desire even?
I think there's certain spaces that kind of shush everyone, and there's other places that make everyone start talking.
Mm.
Um, so like the David statue, everyone starts talking. Oh my gosh, look at this, look at that. I can't wait to talk, can't wait to. And then there's the guards going, please, quiet down, everybody. You're like, sorry, it's not going to happen. um, and I find, I mean, it's interesting that I think the places that make everyone quiet down are the churches. Um, and part of that is, I mean, most of these churches don't have a ton of people inside them. And if there are, they're so big that they're just dispersed throughout the whole church anyway. And you've been in the bright light, you've been in the clatter of traffic and people yelling and talking and da da da. Da. You walk in the church and it's dark, it's quiet, it's sort of a space that says, you know, shh, with its very walls. The walls tell you to shh. So even if people start talking, they're whispering. And I'm like, we don't have to whisper, but I don't tell them to not whisper because, they're feeling the sort of special presence of that place. So I like to, when possible, walk into a church and just have a few steps of feel what it's like to be in here um, before we start talking about look at this freeze or whatever it might be. Um, so that's a place. A church is a space that sort of automatically makes people quiet down and reflect. Um, but I think when it comes to if you're looking at where are some places that I could practice silence and listening and observing, I think the quiet places and the loud places are both just as good because if you can sit in a piazza and just refrain from having a conversation, refrain from the phone check, or the plan or the guidebook, make the next guidebook plan, figure out, just take a couple minutes to just listen to the sounds of that piazza Who's talking? What are they saying? Maybe I don't understand their language, but are they upset or excited or bored? What's going on over there? How is that person talking to their dog? How is that tone of voice different than the taxi driver yelling at the guy crossing the road in front of him? So I think reminding yourself while traveling to have some silent moments is also a really nice way to kind of drop into just being in the present space that you're in.
Love that. For sure. Especially, well, any of the cities, because we usually go to Florence, Siena, and Assisi, and each one of them has their own movement and feel. But in any one of those, I could see just sitting anywhere, sit on a bench, sit in one of the piazzas, sit by a fountain, just watch the people go by. And one of the words I've been using lately for myself is just downshift, because, we rev, we rev,
yes.
we rev like a sports car. Like, what if I could just downshift right now, just for a few minutes, and just let your body feel what it feels like to settle into the spot? Which I hear kind of woven throughout everything you've been saying so far, because, instead of just click and move on, what if you looked at it? What if you asked a question? And I think all of this points to intentionality, and maybe even something you might not have said it pointedly, but that idea of maybe choose a few things instead of all the things. Is that what you would suggest to somebody? Pick a chosen few?
As hard as it is, you'll be so much happier if you focus on going to a few places and doing them well. Something I get all the time is, how fast can we visit the Uffizi?
Did they say that?
Yes. How fast can we get through it? And I'm
gosh.
Should we even go? Do you want to go there? We don't have to go. It's a must. It's only a must if you want to go there. Right. If you don't want to go, look at, why is it a must? Okay, because these pieces are there. Oh, I really want to see those. Okay, now it's a must for you. I agree. We have to go. And then maybe they only want to see those pieces. So, you still can't get through very fast. Nothing allows you to go too fast, I think, in this country. So even if you try, you're sort of prevented by the whole structure of the society, slowing everyone down a little bit. But I think people should sort of interrogate, why do I want to go to these places? And can I remove one? Try to remove one or two so that you can really be in the other ones. And just, give yourself time to experience the things that you're going to see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a classic spirituality question, which is, what do you really want? What do you really want? And if you give people a few minutes to really think about that, they usually know. They just haven't paused really to think about it. And then the thing emerges, and then you would know what to do. It's a great question before you make a decision, or especially a big decision.
Yeah. Why do you want to go here? If you can answer that, then let's go.
Let's go do it. Let's go do it, for sure.
Let's think about something else that you would really love seeing, so that, and I get why, everyone's saying to you, you got to see this. Don't miss this. Don't miss this. But maybe that's their must and it's not your must, or it's the internet must.
Right. Well, you never know. I mean, I think you call it the garage. Is that the Opera del Duomo?
Yeah. Yes.
I love that. She calls it the garage. But then I totally understood what she meant. I was like, oh, I see what this is. But that's now one of my favorite places, because it has those amazing doors with all the bronze. And then my two favorite sculptures right now, which is Mary Magdalene carved in wood. Is it Donatello? And then the Michelangelo. It's Michelangelo, right? And it's the Pietà, but with him in it, and like he tried to break it. Am I getting the story right?
Exactly. Yes.
So, I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do now, because so far, this will be my fourth time. I'm not sick of seeing them. Being reminded of the story. It's fascinating. It's not the David, but it's something I wouldn't have known about, and that I'm intrigued by, that someone would take time to carve Mary Magdalene out of wood and that it would be so moving, like her facial expression. How does
Yes.
that happen?
Yes. Yes.
You know,
What
that,
does the statue tell us about Donatello, about the time he was making it? How did looking at this statue make people feel when they saw it over 500 years ago? Were they going, what is this? Or were they going, wow, I've never thought about Mary Magdalene like this before, because she's so
yes,
unique, that one. She's a very unique Mary Magdalene. And even now, she elicits
yes.
the farthest, you
Oh,
know, the farthest reactions. People go, this is the most incredible statue I've ever seen. And other people
right.
go, this is the ugliest statue I've ever seen. And then those people, I'm like, wait, let me try to tell you the story
Right.
about her so that you can understand what it is you're looking at. And to others, she's the
Right.
most beautiful statue I've ever seen. So
Yeah.
that's a fun one because lots of different and like visceral reactions, I think,
Oh,
to her, because there's a lot of art that I understand why, you've got lots of Mary with baby Jesus, and that can just get a little bit like, okay, I'm not getting an emotional reaction from Mary and baby Jesus 50 times, like one after.
right.
And this statue just, you're
It's
immediately going, what am I looking at? What is this? This is unlike any other statue I've seen. Why? And that's the key. If you're curious, that's, that's that's the way in, I think, is curiosity, wanting to understand, why is this like this, and why do I feel this way when I look at that. um that's the entry point.
for sure. I love to put myself in front of art and just I'm no expert. I'm just like a lady who's doing her best to understand what I'm seeing. But I do enjoy that moment if something does like hit me,
Hmm.
and then you then the curiosity sort of opens up on its own. Like, why do I feel this way, or what am I seeing? Because that sculpture in particular, I can see why people would go both ways because it is a rather masculine face. It's distressed, like, but to
Hmm.
me, what I just saw, I just feel her pain. It's grief. It's the
Yeah.
heaviness, like, and then I'm just amazed that someone can do that with a piece of wood.
Yes.
It's astounding to me. So then I know I'm standing in the presence of something amazing. And whoever curated that room, it's perfect because she's in the middle, enclosed in glass, and then just past her on the wall is a crucifix. It's just this.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful crucifix. So you can look at her, and just over her shoulder you see Jesus. So the whole room makes sense,
Exactly. It's
and it's
almost
just one of my favorite
about
spots.
that, you know,
Yeah,
it's
someone thought
very,
it through.
very nice. That whole museum feels so intentionally curated.
Yes, I love
Because a
that
lot
one.
of
It's very
museums are like, it looked like this in the 1800s. So traditionally, it has to stay looking like this. And so you're kind of like, why is this with this? And that can be interesting too. But it's also nice to have a museum that, the spotlight is down on that one statue, and then the rest of the room can inform that statue. And she is informing the rest of the room too. So
yeah.
it's one of my favorites.
Me too. We will get excited about that room again in about a month
Yeah,
when we're together. Like, here we
exactly.
are again. So,
Yeah.
for those of you who are listening, I know we're going down a little bit of a rabbit trail here with our Mary Magdalene, but this is the beauty of travel, right? Something in you gets. So, I now have a place inside myself where I carry her with that vision. And it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense because then to me, it humanizes her because she could just be a lady in a story that we don't
Mm-hmm.
really know or understand. But this one artist portrayed the agony.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's very special. And those are the kinds of things you can pick up when you're maybe going off the beaten path, or if you're being open and intentional and curious when you're
Mm-hmm.
traveling, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I think this comes back to the 10 memories that live
Yeah.
in you.
Yes.
Versus the pictures that you're looking, oh yeah, we were there. I forgot about that, which happens no matter your best intentions, no matter how slow you go, you do see so much that you can be looking back over your photo reel and going, oh yeah, forgot about that. But if you have that image that stays with you, and every time you think about Mary Magdalene, you see that face, that's sort of the power of art for me, because on the tour, you're not necessarily teaching a lesson about these things. It can be kind of lecture focused, or it can be experience focused. But I think the perfect space is the middle ground of, who were these people being portrayed? Who is the artist portraying them? And how do I feel looking at this thing? And am I going to keep this with me because I've had that emotional connection to a piece?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And even if you quote unquote disagree with whatever it is you're seeing, it still does something in you. You can still learn and maybe double down on what you think instead. That's fine.
Right. Sometimes people say, I don't like this. I'm like, yes, lean into it. Why do you like it? You're having a reaction. That is already, it sounds tragic, but the worst for me is if someone is like, oh, cool. Oh, what?
Does that happen to you? Do you have those?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And those are, I think, the people checking the box a bit.
Yeah.
I prefer someone who goes, you know what? I've learned that I don't love Renaissance painting. Great. You have taken something from this experience. That is what I want. And hopefully something in there to
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I know too, Lauren, that you're an author, and that you do writing retreats, or I don't know, you call them tours or pilgrimages, or I don't know what you call them, but maybe talk about that. And maybe weave in there too. I didn't start with this, but I'd love to hear just a bit, like, how does an American girl end up in Italy and marrying an Italian and having a business? Like, maybe a little bit of that, but also what maybe your writing trips too.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll start with how I came here originally. I first did a study abroad semester, like junior year of college, which was in Rome. And I just completely fell in love with Rome and Italy. It was my first time in Italy. I had always wanted to study art history and Italian. And so this was kind of like my chance to do that. And I just, for me, being in a place that was so beautiful and where history is, you're in it, you're like, this is where this huge event actually happened. The spot that I'm standing in, that for me was just awakened this whole world that had been always a book world for me. And it was kind of felt real when I was here. And so I thought I would move back to Italy for 1 year after graduating. And that 1 year has turned into 15 years. It's August. So this is my 15-year anniversary month of living in Italy. Insane. And I have done a number, I started out by teaching English and writing, doing a bit of writing for newspapers and magazines, and then got into guiding. And it was through that I met my now husband, who I started our little boutique agency with, Unlock Italy, because he is also a guide. So that's how we met. And we started this, this agency, because what we really wanted to do was to, talk to a group of people who are coming to Italy and understand what they want to see, and kind of craft a tour, a day, even a number of days, even a few weeks, whatever it is that they want, so that you can have a real experience and not be doing X, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got to see this, and going, we're on the ground here. And I can tell you don't want to spend one night in each place or you'll go crazy. Please don't do this to yourself, Right. And then what's so fun about it is we get to do sort of some of the trip planning, and then you get to meet people and, show them what you love about the city that they're visiting. So we used to do more tours in Rome as well, and now we tour Florence, Tuscany, the Tuscan coast area, because we live here now. A little more relaxed than the Rome pace, as much as I love Rome.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love Tuscany far. Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit of everything. I'm originally from California, which is like the state that has a little bit of everything. I know now.
Yeah.
Everyone from every other state will say, "Wait, what about my state?" But Tuscany kind of feels like that. As the coast, as some mountains, as some forests, it has beautiful cities. It's kind of you can drive an hour and be in a different place, different sort of terrain and culture. So along all of this way, I've been writing. That's been one of my, main passions. I published a short story collection. I've started teaching college students, study abroad students. So isn't that full circle right there? And I lead these hiking, writing trips for students that we walk along the Via Francigena trail, which was the pilgrimage trail from Canterbury to Rome, sleeping in a different place every night. And there's sort of writing exercises that we do each day along the way to, these are students that are going on a big 2-month trip with this program. And I'm with them for these 5 days on the Via Francigena.
Oh, wow.
And it's been, I don't know, it's been many years now that I've been working with this particular group, with this program that, I designed to kind of, again, they're jumping. I mean, they're not jumping. They're doing like 4 days, 5 days in each place. I mean, they're really getting into each place, but to kind of slow them down with writing. I think there's nothing like writing to kind of put you in a meditative, thoughtful state that then you carry with you for the rest of that day. You're kind of looking at stuff that you might want to write about, or you sit down to write something and almost your subconscious goes, we're going to be writing about this other thing that we're actually quite concerned about that your conscious mind doesn't really want to think about. And that's coming out on the page. So yeah, it's another way to, like I was saying earlier, have a dialogue with yourself in a way that, I mean, for me, writing is the place where I can really connect to me. So what I do is a lot of fiction writing, but on these trips, we're doing a lot of kind of journaling. And if I invite them to say, if you want to make it fiction, you can make it fiction. If you want to make it a more of a journal entry, you can do that too. Whatever is kind of asking to come out, that's what you should put down. So I've also led, I did a fantastic, it was a writing yoga retreat. I was in charge of the writing part and my colleague was in part of the yoga part. Yeah. And those two things just went together so well, because it's also about, being in your body during yoga and then sort of resting inside your mind with the writing, and going between those two things was absolutely wonderful. So I'd like to do something like that again, if we can find time to make it happen again.
That's so wonderful. Oh, that is amazing. Yeah, I would have loved to have been under your teaching as a young person and to have done the Francigena. That whole thing is so good. But I'm so glad we've had a chance to connect here now that I'm not in my 20s, far from it. But I'm wondering, thanks for sharing a little bit of your story. I just wanted to hear more about that. And I guess I'm going to give you a plug, I suppose. I do have one more question I want to ask you, but before that, maybe since we're on this little topic, is what's your website? And if anybody is going to Italy, I don't know how many people who are listening want to go to Italy, but if you do, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful country. Tuscany is the best. Lauren is the best. So how can we connect with you while we're there?
Well, the best way is to check out my website, which is unlockitaly.com. Unlock, like open the door. Unlockitaly.com. Oh, yes. On there's my email. When you write to that email, you're writing to me. If you write to the phone number, you are writing to Luca. So he's very nice as well. different
Sure he is.
People are always writing, "Hi, Lauren." I'm like, and he's like, "Who are these people?" Oh, they're mine.
They're mine. Give them to me.
Give them the email. Give them the email.
Oh, that's good.
The best way
Yeah, well,
to reach out in case you're thinking about planning a trip, or, just kind of I do consultations in case, there's a lot of things that are on there, and as well as my somewhat neglected blog, but there's a lot of good stuff in there, advice too.
Oh, yeah, wonderful. Well, I encourage all of you to connect with Lauren in all the ways she just said, just because she's a wealth of information. She's really dear, as you can already tell. She's a great storyteller, and she's very heart forward in how she guides you through something, which I just really appreciate. So before we go, maybe is there a way to not summarize, but pull out some nuggets from what you've already said? Like if someone was walking away right now, what would you want them to walk forward with from our conversation?
I think if you are, if you're planning a trip, but this could, as we said earlier, be advice easily used in any aspect of life, honestly. Can you take something out to give yourself more time with the other things that you plan to do? And can you give yourself some time for silence? And I would also kind of invite you to find a way to have that dialogue with yourself about what you're seeing, whether that is by writing it down. I mean, I really think having a travel journal on a trip is a great way to process what you're seeing and make you look for things so that you can write them. And when you write them, you're kind of remembering them and reprocessing them. But whether it's actually writing it down in a journal or just taking a moment to name what you're seeing, like you were saying, and to sort of question yourself a little bit. Why am I drawn to this? Why am I not drawn to that? What is it about this thing that is awakening my curiosity and my wonder? And go towards those things. If something is filling you with awe and inspiration, recognize what that might be so you can draw more of those things into your life.
Good. I love these three. Take something out, find some silence, and dialogue with yourself. Those are great invitations. And I think you're right. They are for travel and they are for life.
Absolutely.
So I'm so looking forward to seeing you. Now, if you're listening or watching this, I am with Lauren right now.
Right.
But as we're recording it, I'm recording it ahead. So I'm saying I'll see you soon, but we're actually together right now. So
exactly.
So it's been delightful as always, Lauren. Thank you again so much for being here with me. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. It was so fun to also pause and take the time to think about these things for me as well. So it was a real pleasure.
Thank you for joining me on the Unhurried Living podcast. You can download free resources and learn more about us at unhurriedliving.com. And please subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. We'd also like to thank our partner, Life Audio. Check out their other faith-centered podcasts at lifeaudio.com. Blessings to you as you make your way.